Leslie,
Yes.
could you please enable screen sharing so that I can put my presentation up?
Let me take a look here.
By the way, oh, here, I'll start my video so we can see each other. Hi.
Hi.
Good to
Can
see
you-
you
can you-
in person.
Can you see me at all?
Yeah, I can totally see you.
And what do I need to do?
So when under the on the bottom row in the middle, there's a control called share screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a right next to the icon, there's a little green arrow. And if you click that,
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
yes. So you're the host, I take it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so if you click not the green icon, but right next to it, there's a tiny little arrow, like an up arrow.
Well, it's got share screen.
Yeah, and then a
Well,
teeny little,
I'm not the host. The city is the host.
hey, Chris. Let oh, got it. Okay, very good. Bye. That was Chris. He says that he'll have Miley do it. So we're going to go back on mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Order. This is the December 13th meeting of the Indianola Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees. And we'll start with roll call, Jackie.
Board Member Richardson. Present. Forbush.
Present.
Boyds.
Yes.
Rosga.
Yes.
Smith.
Okay, next item is public comment. Do we have anybody that would like to make a comment? If so, come on up to the podium and share your name and where you live, and you're welcome to make some comments.
Can we make comments when things come up?
Yeah, related to the solar installation. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I don't see anybody else, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items, claims for both November 30th and December 13th, October financials, and minutes from both November 22nd and December 1st. Any questions, comments from anybody on those items?
I had asked a couple questions earlier, just more observation, and Chris both responded, but there was a border states on the claims that mentioned a solar project, and I think that was not, I asked what that was because I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah,
It must have been
that
just a
was-
typo.
It's, yeah, and correctly added solar in there. It's actually a North 7th
Okay.
metering project that we did. And it was coded correctly, just had solar.
It
And
just
we've
caught my
since
eye
created it.
because of the later presentation. That we
Yeah.
had already said it.
Yeah.
And then I was curious about the Brooks Gentry fees and how those are being, what we normally pay and what our obligations are to those. So if that does come up later, just have a better understanding of what that is.
Okay.
And I just responded that looks like there were some fees that were associated with vaccinations and
Yeah, just with the current Brook Gentry, I think this came up with a couple of people. The current Brook Gentry was, we had discussions with our labor attorney, had some discussions. They also responded to our auditor's request for the legal situation, the legal layout.
it just
and
wasn't very much money. So that's what that was.
Yeah, there was just a couple of small things in that one.
Thank you for the follow-up.
Any other questions? Chris, anything to add related to financials?
Nothing to add really. We're about a third of the way through the year already. The only thing that might look a little bit strange to you is on the electric capital expenses. Obviously, we had budgeted for projects, streetscape projects that we have not started or had any expenditures towards that project yet. So that's why that percentage is a little bit off.
Looks really low.
Yep.
3%.
Yeah. Yeah, and in my review, nothing really jumped out at me. That I saw that too, but that made sense. So Okay, unless there's questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved. I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. So we'll move on to electric utility, and this really isn't an action item, but the topic is discussion regarding interest in a potential solar installation in Indianola. So Chris, I think you're going to take this one.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I was privy to a presentation. 10 of our fellow mean members had got together an RFP, a solar project, where they were expecting to do a group buy on solar, and that expected rate was between 5.5 and 6 cents per kilowatt hour, which was a little expensive. That ends up being on 60% more than we're currently paying.
Because what's the current rate?
It's 3.825 cents per kilowatt, and so 5.5 to 6. Technology was advancing, but I thought it'd be tough to justify a 60% increase in this portion of our cost. That RFP came back, and there were a number of providers that were in that range, but there was one provider, Sandhill Energy, that Mean has worked with in the past, that came by significantly less. And I don't have that exact number to share, but it was roughly 7% higher than we're currently paying. And so far away from that 60% increase, that 7% makes this solar project affordable. And so out of that, they allowed more people to participate. And so this original core group of 10, 30 other people have expressed interest, including IMU, in joining that at that rate. So the original project has grown in scale a number of times. They're still going to extend that pricing out to the current on that current RFP to anybody from Mean that was willing to join. So there's a rate at right around 4 cents, or in the 4 cents range, I guess I can say, which is quite affordable considering our 3.8% or 3.8 cent conventional. It would be for 25-year term with a 0.5% annual escalator. So this agreement would be a purchase power agreement. IMU wouldn't be purchasing solar panels, but we would be purchasing all the electricity that is produced from those solar panels. The Sandhills Energy, who currently handles IMU's wind farm, is moving kind of into the solar arena more. This will be their largest solar project as these come together. So what we have is kind of a decision and discussion on that. We'll have, if we express interest in this project and kind of commit to that in concept, sounds good, or that sounds something we'd sign up for. We'll have official contracts in January when those become public, and then we'll be able to discuss exact numbers and more specifics. But what IMU would need to provide in this agreement, or to participate in this agreement, is we would need to provide the land lease at a zero cost to the provider. Now, the size of the project that we're looking at would be a 4.2 megawatt DC. It's about 6 acres per megawatt, and so plus or minus. So we need approximately 25 acres to be able to provide them. Now, IMU would need to lease that at a zero cost for a 25-year term. We would then be able to buy at a good rate for now, that's 7% more than our current wholesale amount. All the electric that comes off of that. We would need to provide all the interconnection equipment, a transformer, switch, and metering. Did I miss any of the
No, it'd be
Transformer.
Probably multiple transformers for that, yeah.
The structure of redundancy, that's kind of the package you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could do one large transformer, but it's probably smarter to do 3 or 4 smaller transformers. So those, you know, those sized appropriate transformers for that 4.2 megawatt.
What's our, just a ballpark cost of that equipment that we'd have to buy?
We'd have to find out for sure, especially with transform pricing right now. I'd hate to even. Prices we're seeing are scary.
Are we talking 100,000 or a million?
I'm thinking you'll have at least 100,000 probably in it. I don't, hopefully it's not much more than that, but like I say, we're looking at possibly 3 transformers.
So the 100,000 would be the full? Or would it be
I'm guessing it's gonna be
300,000?
north of that a little bit. By the time you buy 3 transformers, the switch gear and then the metering around there, but I'm hoping, and this is ballpark, don't
Yeah.
hold me to it, but I'm hoping it's under, 125, 130,000.
I understood they were gonna be here this evening. I guess I misunderstood what you said.
No, they won't be here till January. Once we've got the contracts, they'll be here to answer the specifics about the contracts. But in your packet is the presentation. It's kind of lacking in those specifics, but that's, right now they got a couple of solar RFPs out and they don't want to reveal too easily their hand.
So if we went ahead, do we have land secured that we would be able to use, or would we have to also seek that?
We do have land in front of you, should be probably as Mike and I are discussing it. The first group or first bunch of land that came to mind would be surrounding our water plant. So this is in front of you is the water treatment facility. We lease out for agriculture purposes all this land surrounding it. So we would need to stop that agricultural lease.
How much is that square area?
The total square is about 50 acres, as you see the blue around there. But of the area that we currently include farms, we can easily get that 25 acres within that area. Subject to some of that blue, I know he's got some underground piping and things like that we'd have to work around, but we should be able to get it in there. They're willing to come out and look at the site and to say, yes, this is a good fit.
It's all graded.
It slopes kind of to the south a little bit already, so it's kind of actually positioned from what we know of it. It sure seems like a good fit.
Yeah, we're trying to get some that slope is a nice match.
What do we get off of that ground today for rent?
About 3,000 a year. It's on that, so 30 acres tillable. And it was in hay field and now it's in beans. But we as you can see that by the picture, the plant and the holding tank and our sludge pits there, that area will need to exclude and keep. But like Mike was saying, there's plenty of area there that we can clear some trees.
On the outside of the border, whose property is on the outside?
It's a couple different farm.
They won't have any, will they push back on that being border, being their property?
I don't think we never see them because it's a big company that come in and they come in and put the field in, spray it, and then leave. But we don't even know. And then to the north, it's rarely used pasture land. So I don't see it as being an issue there.
To the east is the same way, isn't it?
East, yep, same way. Oh, and there's some grove and some trees.
You wouldn't have any zoning issues or anything like that?
We started the discussion with community development just to throw this out. They're doing some research. And so obviously this is all, pending that this works out, but Charlie's working on that. And we looked at a couple of other sites. I think there's some smaller options and we might be able to split this up a little bit. We do a portion or a smaller amount here and, might have some other areas to choose from. I mean, the zoning land, the zoning becomes, that's the question mark, and all the stuff needs to line up for it to be successful. But we're having that conversation. And Charlie's working on kind of some thoughts on where it could or couldn't be.
Would this qualify for any grant money?
Not for us, because this, from the IMU perspective, this would just be a purchase power agreement. The company that's doing the ownership and would have purchased and owned all the equipment, they might qualify for that, and that might be why this rate is as beneficial as it is. But yeah, we wouldn't. We would just be leasing the land to them, and that as we talk about the purchase power arrangement, that's probably one of the pros of this. Somebody else would own it, so if these panels are problematic and they need to come in and maintenance, that's not a burden that falls on Mike and his crew. Now, obviously, if it's anything upstream transmission lines, that's obviously would be us. But for the, anything downstream of the meter, any of the panel brackets, problems with those, that maintenance and obligation all falls on the Sandhills Energy Company. So all in all, I think this is a good way for IMU to get a large solar installation. It doesn't require cash outlay of millions of dollars. This gets us that benefit. There are a couple of other benefits that are a little harder to quantify, and so one of those is this is produced locally. We don't have any transmission costs on this. But those transmission markets are in a lot of flux, so I don't want to promise that we'll get see a savings from it, because in all likelihood it'll just decrease what we'll see as an increase. But there's this wouldn't, so 5% of our energy wouldn't cross all the transmission lines that it does. Like I said, it's no financial outlay. All the risks of operation and the risk of failure, a lot of those are borne on the Sandhills Energy Company. Obviously, as far as cons to this way, we have a 25-year lease, and we're obligated that, and not knowing exactly how that contract, or our lawyers haven't reviewed that, what happens if this company goes bankrupt, or can this facility be sold and they're changing hands. Don't know any of that yet. So I think, from my perspective, the big apprehension is this would be a 25-year lease for 25 acres, and that's not insignificant to the scheme of things. But in general, this is an affordable, like near parity currently, and probably over time, we'll see this way of producing power decrease below our current facilities, as there's any, traditionally we've seen a little over 1.5, between 1 and 1.25% of our inflationary expenditures on our conventional methods. This one's contractually 0.5%. So, even under certain scenarios, history will tell us that our conventional methods will become more expensive than this at some point in this 25-year installation. But it is 25 years and 25 acres is probably the big concern, or probably the area where we should have a discussion. The rest of that is this, I think, will be a great addition to the community. We'll have solar power at a reasonable cost with not a lot of cash outlay, and so I will turn that over to the board for discussion. And there are a number of supportive folks.
And before we do that, just to clarify one thing. So can you talk a little bit about why it's sized the way it is and the 5% limitation that we have?
Okay, yeah. So contractually, or we're required to purchase all our power, or our contract is with me is to provide all the electricity that the city will need. In that, mean bond attorneys have felt, and they use that contract of the sole source of electricity for the town to get better rates on their bond agreement. So they've used that leverage and in their bonding capacity as the mean organization. And the lawyers have determined, that there's probably a little bit of wiggle room in what a 100% and sole source provider is, and they've laid that out currently at 5%. That buying 95% is still, legally sole source and generous. So in this project right now, or as it current sits, if we went with the 4.2 megawatts, that would be the entire 5% that we could purchase. And so solar going forward, unless there was a legal change or a legal concept change, we'd probably be prevented from doing any additional solar projects as a utility. Anything that happens from here on out would need to be mean owned, and that is a little bit different dynamic.
See, I misunderstood that. I guess I thought mean was in conjunction with this, but they're really not.
Not for this, not for this project. This
Okay.
would be an agreement between IMU and mean facilitated the RFP because all the participants in this RFP are mean participants. But this agreement would be between Sand Hill Energy and IMU.
So Chris, am I correct in understanding that? I understood that. So for any citizen that wanted to have solar panels on their personal residence, that went against this 5%. Is that, or is that not?
That the personal solar panels are not going to go against that 5%.
It does not go against.
Yeah,
They used to, but didn't that change?
yeah. That was back when it was 3%. That was part of that over the past couple of years.
It doesn't matter. But so bottom line is that, so this would not prohibit somebody from doing something if they chose to.
Correct. I mean, we still have limits on that, but those limits this wouldn't play a role what those limits are.
So I did notice in the zoning permits, there were a few individual residential requests for solar. Do we have a part when those requests are made? Do we have any sort of participation or support with that to understand how much is there?
Yeah, part of our mean agreement or talking about the process to get solar, there is an interconnection application that we need to sign. So there's a process for an individual. They've got to fill out this interconnection application, list their equipment, and list how they're going to build it, go get an electric permit. We then submit that to mean. The mean needs to know about all these distributed generation facilities, and mean.
When you say that, are you talking residential?
Yeah.
So if my husband and I decided to do that, that would have to go with it through this process, and that's what part of what you're talking about.
Yeah, the residential one. And so, okay, and what we get out of that is a production meter that gets put on the facilities because they need to monitor what is getting produced inside there. So the role IMU plays is, at the very beginning, there's that application. We submit that to mean, kind of play the intermediary. Once mean has okayed the project, and we're a long ways away from those limits. So right now it's kind of just an informality. They okay it, then we notify the customer, the resident, that their application's been approved. Mike orders that production meter. The resident works with their installers. They get their solar installed. And once their installer has completed everything and we get an electrical inspection, then Mike will go out and inspect it. And if it passes all of our requirements, we put in that production meter, and he gets notified of their cellular meters that send out the signal to me on what is getting produced at a 15-minute interval.
So Mike has that insight as your long-term things you can have access to that.
We have an action. Chris has access to it. Alicia's group has access to that. We started a process where everybody has access to know where we're at, each individual residence, where they're at, or commercial. Simpson's got a solar array as well. So
as this project you're talking about comes along, what's that? When Mike was asking you questions, I'm sorry, I This is all new to me.
That this project wouldn't prohibit or
separate.
stop. Yeah, they're kind of separate
It
concepts.
mean doesn't, that somehow doesn't come to a total that means says you hit the limit because you've got this residential and you've got this more community.
There is a limit, but I think it's another 5%, I think it's another 5% limit of the residential. And we're a long way from it. At some point, it's conceivable that we would have to start saying no, but we're a long ways from that. And this project wouldn't change where we're at in that residential solar product, any of those limits.
How long will it take to recoup our initial cost if we do something like this?
125 grand.
If we
Approximately.
hold
I don't want to put any words in Mike's mouth.
I knew I need to throw a number out there. It'd be sketchy, but
Plus loss of income from the ground.
Right.
and 7% higher rates that we're paying for the energy that's produced.
Yeah.
7% higher now. Over time, I would expect that to decrease.
Yeah, and with this, just the dollars holding the current rate, we after about 10 years, we'd see solar become cheaper. The exact timing of amortizing our one-time cost over what could or couldn't be produced at the solar field is a little difficult. And so, for this concept or project, I think the transformers and metering equipment kind of have to be a, capital project, and we put it in to facilitate this, and we don't really get a payback out of those per se. I think, just because it's difficult to exactly, panels degrade in performance over time and what they'll see and when it'll hit up to 80%. A lot of those are moving parts.
And tell me if I summarize this, and tell me if I'm accurate or not. Over the 25 years, from a financial standpoint, this would probably break even or potentially be slightly one way or another, but not significant.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're comparing a 1.5% or 1 to 1.25% escalator. That's the historical number. But in any one year, natural gas could drive up rates, or that a lot of this is market driven and where this crosses over. And so it'll cross over at some point. There's a couple of scenarios where next year this is the cheapest source of energy. If natural gas prices are in flux, and with this commitment, we could see a big movement in our conventional wholesale energy rates, where this pays back immediately, or there could be a spike and it comes down. But just taking a 20-year view, you're comparing the 1.25% escalation or inflationary pressures against this contract of 0.5%. So it's reasonable to assume that it will cross over at some point. But I mean, even if we look at what this costs now, frozen out, it represents a 0.3% increase in our wholesale cost, even kind of under some worst case scenarios. So not huge in the scheme of things. And when it'll cross over, it's a little tougher to tell. It's reasonable to expect that it will.
And so I'm at least for this initial discussion, I'm kind of trying to stay at the 30,000 foot level. But from a financial standpoint, I don't see this as a positive or negative either way. I think it's something that do we as a board and a community want this in our town? Do we want solar? And that's where I think our friends here probably would have an answer to that. But I think that's what we as a board need to think about.
Yeah, and that's a great summarization. There's a financial impact. It's all likely pretty small, and in the scheme of things, the financial impact, with this agreement is small enough that I think the more important concepts are, do we want solar, and are we willing to commit 25 acres of land to get it here? everything else financial, there's probably some gravy there. It's hard to predict how much and when.
Well, and in 25 years, we probably will be out of the mean contract, won't we?
It depends. It depends on our participation in future projects. Our mean contract exists as long as mean incurs new debt. So for instance, if mean comes in and wants to, 2 years from now, solar is even cheaper yet, or whatever that, and they want to do a solar project, and we want to participate in it to get the benefit of the potential cheaper rates. If they borrow for whatever period of time they borrow for, we've extended our obligation, until such a time that we want to have special rates because we're not going to participate in the future portions of the debt.
There's not really a clean cutoff to the end of the contract with me, right?
Right.
Seems perpetual.
See, I thought that
It
we
is
were
perpetual.
under a 30-year contract.
Say that again, Leslie.
I thought we were under a 30-year contract.
It is currently 30 years or 31 years, or it is 30 years from 2009. It's through 2039, and what that 30-year number is in 2009 when we joined, the debt that they took out was 30-year debt, and we're obligated to this mean arrangement for the length of that they have in the.
Until it's
Yeah.
paid off,
Yeah.
But they've
unless they
taken out,
borrow more.
Yeah.
they've taken out more debt since then, haven't they?
Everything else has been, they've really moved to a purchase power concept, and so they haven't taken out additional debt. They've refunded some of that existing stuff, so we're currently obligated through 2039 until they take out the debt.
Chris, so this, just looking at some stuff quick, so this Sand Hill, so they're from Omaha. And I just looked it up.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say.
Because I didn't see anything out of it, said where these guys are from. So you had indicated that Mean had relationship with these folks in the wind side. Is that correct?
Yeah, they, IMU participates through Mean in a wind farm in Kimball, Nebraska. And that wind farm is currently being run and operated and upgraded by Sandhill Energy. And so Mean has a existing relationship with Sandhill, and they've been,
How long has that been in existence?
that I don't know. It's,
Can
wind
you
is,
let us know that?
yeah, I can
I mean,
certainly send that.
I guess I'm just curious to know who these folks are. And I remember, when I first coming on the board here and just hearing from folks in the community about these horrible mean people and how is IMU so stupid as to done what they did and so on and so forth. And I mean, as I've looked at things and to where we are today, I don't know that it's a horrible thing for our community. I think people don't understand it. And so consequently, there will be some bad things there. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do a 25-year agreement with somebody, that we know who it is that we're partnering up with. So any information you provide to us as to who these folks are, it appears looking at their stuff here, some of their information, for instance, it says 670 megawatts of successful development, but that's Sand Hills Energy. Okay, doesn't say whether that's wind, it doesn't say whether that's solar. I guess I'd be curious to know how much they've done wind, how much of this stuff is solar, what other projects they've done, and then who is Blue Sky Solar?
And are they the only game in town?
Well, they have-
I don't know, but so Sandhill Energy, I'm just reading from what's here.
Yeah.
So it says Sandhill Energy, Sandhill Solar, Sandhill Wind, and then under Sandhills Energy, there's this other entity apparently that's called Blue Sky Solar.
Okay.
And so my question is, what's the relationship of Blue Sky to these other entities? And it says over 400 installs.
Do they have?
I mean, is that residential rooftops or is that real solar
They
farms?
typically are utility scale.
I just want to make sure.
No, absolutely.
That's
Is
all.
there a way we could see the results of the RFP that they responded to?
The RFP results will be available when the contracts
That
final.
should have that information. Everything.
I can certainly inquire as to that. I know a lot of the RFP results they're trying to keep confidential until they have the contracts out.
No, and I get that. I mean, you don't want to disclose that because then you're put yourself in a competitive disadvantage. But I'm just saying, I guess at this point in time, I think we've got questions, but that doesn't mean it's not a good thing.
And these folks,
Doesn't mean
somebody
that
from Sandhill will be available at our next meeting or the meeting in January. I don't know if that'll be the first meeting or the second meeting when they've got those contracts out and we've actually got, documents that our lawyers have reviewed. They will make themselves available at that point for any further questions like that.
Even
try
to
to
us
find out-
individually?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I can try to find out any of this, specific information, but it'll at least, they'll be in front of us and we can ask questions of them once we have the contract to discuss.
So what questions do we want to ask?
Well,
Talking about sand hills, would they be required to put a bond up?
The performance bond, I'm sure there's some version of that. They're dealing with a lot of municipalities and
I mean, addressing what Mike was saying, so you got some protection there. That's what I get that with my question.
yeah, it's likely the case, but I don't know that for sure.
What happens if they don't perform, I think is what the question is. Does the equipment all revert to us then and we take it over, or what happens?
and is this something that would qualify for going for a bid? For bids?
Say that again, Leslie?
Is this something that would qualify that we would need to go for bids?
I think Mead has already done that through the RFP process.
Means already done that?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I provide some comment? So my name's Amanda Zwanziger. I'm part of the Indianola Sustainability Committee, but I'm also, I've been in the energy and semi-solar space for a good part of my career. I have a consulting business right now, but I did just get done leading in the energy group at the Waldinger Corporation, which is a solar contractor. But in that time that I worked there, I worked closely with electrical distributors that sold solar everywhere. Like worked with Ideal Energy. I didn't care who was implementing it. I think the fact that the community is looking at this and that IMU is considering this is phenomenal. If you guys understood how much solar is being implemented in this state because of the urgency that we have to implement alternative sources of energy, it's critical. I know we talked about, does our community want it? I don't even think we're at a point of does our community just want it? Does our community need it? Being so reliant on coal and this long-term contract is putting our community at great risk. So I want to say that. But from a bidding standpoint, there are some incredible resources that we have here locally that I would encourage you just to vet out this contract. Russ Stokes, longtime resident of Indianola, he runs the green division of 3E, which distributes solar panels through to electrical contractors and solar installers across the state. He would be able to provide you some good feedback on what you're looking at from a contract standpoint. When I hear 4 cents, it is a great deal. And that just, having been in the industry for a long time, makes me have a question mark and say, why? And the caution, if it all fleshes out, awesome, do it. Don't hesitate. The reason I would question it is that there have been projects like this explored by out-of-state companies that have investors, or they're expecting sales tax credits that don't exist in the state, and all this work goes in, community gets excited about it, and then it falls apart because the company that promised those rates they were not able to come through.
And so investors play a big part in these solar array projects. So I would just say, use your local resources. There's Red Lion Renewables up in Norwalk that does power purchase agreements. They've done them all over the state. Connect with some of those people before you sign on the dotted line.
Amanda, did you say that was Red Lion?
Red Lion, yeah. He's done probably close to 100, I would bet, in the state. He does a lot. And I don't know who else. He's the one I'm most familiar with from a power purchase agreement standpoint. I would also just wonder, my question is who's installing it? So is it being serviced from Nebraska? Because when we talk about arrays, maintenance is something that should have a local presence. You know, if they don't have tractors that are scooping the snow off as a part of their proposal, somebody needs to be scooping that off in order for you to get the power that you're expecting out of the agreement. All those things are things that if you work with one of the local solar experts just to vet this and figure out where they're coming up with that 4 cents. If everything fleshes out, snag it. And I would just encourage too, from a sustainability standpoint and representing the community here, consider passing some of that along to the customers. You know, I am an advocate for efficiency in our community, and I know I hear all these people once a month on Indianola Moms, somebody's like, I can't pay my bill, IMU is scamming us, and I have to educate. I've done a webinar, I've sent it out to them that, you know your rate's your rate, here's some things you can do. If you guys could pass this along and be able to show, here's the things that we're doing to help lower the cost and the impact, the people in the community could have some significant results.
But you do understand this isn't going to lower the cost. So there is not something to pass on in this instance.
Now, but as our as coal generated electricity continues to rise and our solar remains flat, then there would be savings that would start coming IMU's way.
What Chris is approximating, that'll be 10 years from now. So it's
Yeah.
not much off.
And a 25-year agreement, that was the other comment I was going to make. Very standard power purchase agreements. The only other length of time I typically hear is 20. So that's not an unrealistic power purchase agreement, but you would have 15 years of generating savings, which I would hope some of the people in the community would be able to feel that impact as well.
Yeah, I think your wholesale price that you're currently paying is gonna probably go up quicker than you might think, because natural gas prices have doubled, as long as we've got generation that way. I think, one of the best things about this whole project, you're gonna eliminate 6 million kilowatt hours of fossil fuel generated energy.
And I understand what you're saying, but I would caution that not all of what we're buying from me is
That's
fossil
true.
fuel generated.
But I mean, realistically, it could be.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get away from it.
Any other comments from anybody on this topic?
I just wanted to say, because I've been hearing several of us off and on and really encouraging solar in the community from you guys, and we really appreciate the fact that you're looking into this and looking into it very carefully. But in general, it really sounds good to us.
And just to add to that, I mean, I've been on this board long enough that this comes up almost every year, if not a couple times a year. And we have always kind of said, when it makes financial sense, we'll consider it more. And until now, it really hasn't made financial sense. The capital outlay that if we were to do this ourselves just didn't make sense for IMU to do. And this arrangement where you're kind of sharing the risk, I feel like it's starting to make more sense. I agree that we need to vet it far more than we have so far, but it's looking possible.
Can I just add on the part of what is driving those rates are the tax credits at a federal level that, obviously those are uncertain. There's been our state tax credit went away. So there is some vulnerability by not moving forward, when you have that, we have seen solar costs go down, but tax credits have gone away, which fortunately, it's still attractive to move forward, but it's going to become less the longer the delay. If you would have moved forward 2 years ago, it would have been even more attractive. But solar, what prevented it when you guys were looking at it, I don't know, it was maybe 5 years ago, I can't recall how long ago. Solar equipment cost more. It was kind of like TVs. Your smart TVs were expensive and now they're cheap. That's where solar is. It's more affordable now.
And Chris, in the original 11, isn't Waverly in that?
Yeah.
That might, it seems like they're a step ahead of us with this, so that might be a place that we could have a conversation with them too.
Yeah, they've done some other Waverly owned, solar installs.
I think Warburg has too.
Yeah.
Through this company.
No, I don't know who their installer was, but that was Waverly owned.
Well, but Waverly's part of this RFP.
Right, I just didn't know
Yeah.
if they went ahead of this, that they haven't made experience with that.
Yeah, not with this company specifically, but they are, they are committed and they're going to be part of this, and they are looking at a almost 4,000 or 4 megawatt installation of Waverly as well. So, they're kind of in that same place of just have this skeleton of information of approximately what the concept looks like, and in favor of that from that respect. But like I said, I think a lot of the meat and potatoes and a lot of the questions that we have will come when we get to see the contracts, but we kind of just need a direction that if everything is as it appears, and we pass any of the vetting hurdles with the details we get, that would be on board.
So once the RFP is out, is there a clock that's going off? Do we have a timeline where we got so many days, or?
They are.
You mentioned something about a letter January, I thought I heard you say.
Yeah, they're hoping to have the contracts out and signed in January and February because they are arranging their contractors, and they, their anticipated schedule is installing it over the bulk of the summer and into the fall next year with what was originally a Q1, everyone turning everyone on and all these concepts. Now this project's got 250% bigger. I don't know if they'll quite make that Q1, but they're booking their installation cards, and they're hoping to get a hold of contractors and get everyone obligated.
I just think there's a lot of work for those guys to be able to do that in a 30 to 60 day window. Unless I'm wrong, I sure as heck would want to visit every one of these sites and do some different things, and there's time involved in everything doing that.
Chris, Q1 2022 or 23?
23. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, everything contracts installed in Q1 22. Everything installed in functional Q1 or maybe Q2 23 is they're expected to turn on.
Do we have action tonight, or it's more just?
Yeah,
because of
it's really just,
lead into
yeah,
January?
like Chris was saying, is there consensus from us to at least continue pursuing it? We're not making any commitments at this point.
Yeah,
I think it's worthwhile looking
Oh,
into
yeah,
that.
right, so let's move forward. Yeah.
perfect. All right. Well, I'll try to get those questions, and certainly Mike and I spoke with guys from Sand Hill, and they want to come down and do a site visit to kind of okay everything from their perspective, and if we can arrange that around one of our meetings, maybe and get them to be down later this year. I know our next meeting is scheduled the 27th of December. If we choose to have that, or if they're in town, we can have a special meeting. Talk with them about that.
So I know Mike had said 125, 130. Not holding you to it.
That's if we're doing one site. If we start going to multiple sites, then that
That goes up. Okay.
Well, and are we going to contact some other people too, to as the I don't know who it was who was speaking in the audience had mentioned, are we going to get other opinions as well?
Yeah, throughout the next month or so, I can
Okay.
kind of work and vet and get more information and speak with some of our local folks and,
But I don't want to speak for Amanda, but based on what I heard her say was, if this truly is 4%, you're not gonna do any better than that.
So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I
4 cents,
don't,
I'm sorry.
I don't hear 4 cents on power purchase agreements. So I'm curious what's in the line items.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I would bet and work with somebody else who does PPAs to be able to identify that. Because if they're incorporating a state tax credit, which out-of-state people can do, if they're not knowledgeable on that, it could all end up blowing up. It may not be the case, maybe because they are looking at, you know, such a large contract, they're able to do, you know, some magic, but it's just, yeah, anytime something's too good to be true, do your own work.
So what was Means involvement in this then?
they organized and administered their RFP, so they worked with the communities and kind of pooled the resources and said, all right, we have a group of 10 people that are going to commit to this project.
Well, I guess I was wondering if there was some incentive for them to, financial incentive for them to pull all this together.
Nothing that I know of. Yeah, I think this was just all because solar is, and the movement towards solar is in demand. They had enough communities that wanted to get together that, they did this on their behalf. They have a lot of, Mean has a service area and a service department where they're, looking to, they do rate studies and they do those concepts and, they do a lot of ancillary work in support of the local communities. That doesn't necessarily benefit Mean directly. It benefits the local communities, and that's one of the that's kind of where this came from.
So was this a major topic at your recent meeting?
Yeah, and this was as like I said, they expected to see stuff come in 5.5 and 6 cents is kind of what they, as that original group of 10 were expecting. When it came in as low as it did, a lot more people said, oh, this is now something that there was a group that wanted solar at any cost, and we're just looking to minimize it by buying as part of a group. A lot more of us took note when this came in at, now we're talking about in the ballpark of our conventional methods. And, I said at 5.5 or 6 cents, I would have had a tough time recommending we jump in, with this, because that would be making us, there would be a percentage or a couple of percent rate increase that we need to see to pay for electricity at 6 cents, and we're getting it at 3.8 currently. But when it's, when we're in the horizon of parity, the original 10 became 40 nearly at that meeting.
We commonly see 5 in the state, and I would just continue, even like if you get into it and there is a blip, still put the pencil to paper on if it is higher than 4, because I have a hard time believing that there isn't maybe it's not as immediate of a return, but there's a return that I think IMU should still explore, no matter if it's 4% or 1 or 5. I think there's opportunity, or 4 cents or 5 cents. I think you have an opportunity to still have a return, but where things are headed as far as electrical prices. Right now, the investor owns, we were 10% less 10 years ago from Illinois, and we are now 15% higher electrical rates in Iowa, investor owned, than Illinois. So 25% increase in 10 years. And so those are things that to me are really, really concerning, that we should have some alternative strategies outside of the current strategies we have, renewables are important.
So Chris, do you have what you need from us?
Yeah, nobody, as long as, in concept with everything that we've discussed, you guys would be willing to sign on the dotted line to obligate some land for 25 years. I think that's everything that I need.
We're not there yet, but
I would say we're willing to
Yeah.
consider it.
Yeah, there's no objection to it. If everything pans out like we're expecting here.
Well, but if you're even looking at the little, and they're talking about taking core samples and other things also. So I mean, they're gonna check some stuff out as far as the site itself is concerned, and they might tell us that this is not an appropriate site. We just don't
Yeah, I mean,
know.
to that end, they may reject us, and like I said, if we had to, this works right now because we've got 25 contiguous acres that we can do it with here. It changes a little bit if we got to move this across 3 or 4, or if worse, we have to purchase some land in order to lease it for them. That becomes a little different scenario.
okay. Let's move on. Thank you, Amanda and others for your comments. Very helpful. Okay, electric utility information items. Mike.
Transmission poles, they were in the last couple of weeks, changing out those structures that we, as part of our capital project. They should be wrapping that up by tomorrow. Downtown lights, we've got some temporary ones up until the other ones come in. They did open up a section of the street Friday as well. So some of the lights that were taken down have been put back up. And then we've just been doing a lot of tree trimming as well this time of year. And then updating still our other part of another capital budget is the LED light conversion from hybrids. So the LEDs, we've been out doing quite a few of those as well. But, enjoying the warmer, abnormal warmer weather right now, taking advantage of it.
Sounds like there are gonna be a lot of winds on Wednesday.
A little
though.
bit.
Heads
Let's
up.
hopefully we're shoot that.
Thanks, Mike. Water utility information.
Yeah, like Mike was saying, there's no frost on the ground. There's contractors still moving dirt. They took more bacteria samples in today on another project, so we're just staying busy with that. And like I say, tomorrow we had a gentleman unlucky. They drove through his yard, forgot his fire hydrant. Our fire hydrant was in the middle of it, ran over it, so didn't do the breakaway flange, snapped the barrel. So we're going to have to dig up this whole yard, and there's a lot of things in the way. So it'll be an all-day project for us tomorrow on getting that a new hydrant set. Otherwise, we're down, and then Thursday we've got another black bag hydrant that we got a company coming down from Cloud Fire Hydrant to work with us on that, getting that one repaired. So we're gaining, and like Mike said, enjoying the weather and staying real busy.
Thanks, Lou. All right, communication utility information items. Kurt.
Yep, I'm starting out the same way, business as usual, and we're still waiting on the ground to freeze too. So I went further though. I looked at the 14-day forecast and it actually looks pretty good too. So I think we're going to be good to get conduit in the ground all the way through Christmas, and we'll see what happens in January. So December installs, we're going to end up around 65, 70, which is pretty much full calendar for us with the holidays and everything in there. So another good month. Newcom Technology has begun working on the engineering for that potential transport route between Indianola and Pella. They should have routing and anticipated pricing available early next year. We have asked for a deliverable date on that as December 22nd. So assuming they can stay on track and the weather's been good, so they should have been fine to get out in the field and take a look at things. But hopefully we'll have some numbers end of December to take a look at. So I don't remember if I mentioned the rural Iowa broadband grants last time, but if I didn't, we completed 2 grant applications for their latest funding round. One is for a census block south and kind of west of the new wastewater plant. And then the other is for 3 census blocks south of town, basically south of South River and, south of South River and then north of like where the airport is along there. So if they stay on schedule, we should learn on funding on that if we're awarded any by the end of the year as well. So we'll see where it goes.
And will the grant, like what will the grant cover?
Yeah, the grant, we asked for 48% coverage for the census block to the north and 60% for the block to the south, or the blocks to the south. So
How are those percentages derived?
that is by a formula. 60% was the max that you could ask for. And then there was some pricing, or there was some pricing, excuse me, there were some ways of how they calculate your final score and rate how your project looks. We went a little lower on the north project just because we knew we were going to put dark fiber in there for the wastewater plant. And we were trying to get our scores up a little bit higher so we could make sure we get something. There's also not as many houses up on the north plant or up on the north census block. So that also kind of factored in where we're on things. So. And then just a little housekeeping on the TV side of things. NBC Universal will be dropping the NBC Sports Network on January 1st. So that channel will no longer be available to us. And that was reflected in their latest contract. What little sports program that's still on that channel is probably going to move over to the USA Network. So I happened to take a quick look before we came to the meeting. NBC Sports ranked 61st in our channel lineup. So it's right above the Weather Channel, so it doesn't have a ton of viewership. But anyway, that we will be losing that channel.
We gotta get some Weather Channel.
Right. Yeah, so.
The other one I've been hearing about is DIY is switching to Magnolia. Does that impact us at all?
Yeah, they'll just simply just change their branding. So
It's just name change.
yep. We're in a contract with that one, so they have the right to do that, but all the terms on that will stay the same for now until we get to that renegotiation period. So, yep. Other than that, that's all I got. Unless you have any questions.
Question, I know Adam traditionally asks percentage of new installs and it is, usually you give us like a 50% kind of a figure. I think it might be beneficial for us to also track why some of that is. I guess I think it'd be beneficial to us to see that. Did somebody choose to go to Brand X? Did they leave town? Are they moving to a new house in town, and just kind of see why?
Yeah, the vast
I don't know if our new phone system has the ability to do some of that kind of stuff, or.
Yeah, I don't think we have any capability there though. But what I do is run a report at the end of every month, take a look at those customers that have dropped off, then go back in and check and see if they still have utility services like electric and water. And yeah, almost 99% of the time somebody's moved. They've also disconnected electric and water or something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah, but I still think it would be good for us to see that.
Yep. So yeah, there's report
Anybody
out
else think that would be good?
And Kurt, I think last month, I don't think you were here, but we heard from Chris that there were staffing challenges. Has that sort of resolved itself? Or?
Yeah, we finally got back to full staff last Wednesday. So yeah, we're back to full staff. I'll have that full staff until Thursday of this week, and then I got more people on vacation. So, but yeah, everybody's feeling much better, and we got a few more vacation days to get through, but should be pretty good come first of the year. So
Good to hear. Yeah. Are other departments having health issues as well, or is it more just fiber guys?
so far we've been all right.
I'm just curious.
We'll see what tomorrow morning brings.
Okay, combined electric, water, and communications action items. We have 2 items. First, related to Crystal Clear Communications to provide community outreach and communication.
All right, so in your packet is a proposal from Crystal Clear Communications, and my Lisa will share the screen. John Ann Willow has a presentation for you. We currently use her for a lot of one-off projects, website projects, and she does all of the content for our newsletter and formatting and delivery. With this proposal, seeking to kind of make those that single project and month-to-month proposal more annual and increase their level of services. So she'd still maintain that footprint and assisting with our IMU flyer, but she's got a number of other customer education related items that she can go over. And if you guys will take a look at the screen, I'll turn it over to John Ann, and John Ann, take it away.
Hi guys. Sorry. I just want Hi, I'm John Ann. Can you guys see the presentation screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much first for letting me come to the meeting and present remotely. And I'm really excited to be starting into my second year of working with Indianola Municipal Utilities. See, I'm so nervous. I don't usually do this in front of people. So I'm put together just a couple little slides for us to go over so we can get a sense of what we've been doing and what I propose to have us do for next year. So here it goes. A little bit about me first. I have enjoyed a 20+ year career in print and broadcast journalism. I'm a Norwalk, Iowa native, born and bred, and a graduate of the University of Iowa in Iowa City. I started my journalism career actually in Muscatine, Iowa, at the big AM news station there, and worked at KRNA in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids before I moved to Minneapolis to continue my radio career, and things went from there. I specialize in, my communications practice specializes in working with utilities and cities. So I do this work every day. I'm really familiar with the ins and outs of municipal life and the needs of the needs of those kinds of organizations. I'm also a co-founder of the Community Broadband Action Network, which we founded in early 2018 when we were still asking, or when people were still asking the question of, do we really need broadband? Yeah, for everybody. So it's been really exciting for us. We're about to announce our acceptance of our nonprofit status. And in the 3 years that we've been doing work to help communities investigate and implement and operate with excellence their own local broadband initiatives, we have over 112 members, about 120 members in 12 states. So it's really grown, so it's very exciting. I am also an award-winning writer, editor, and television commentator. And I mean, I've won journalism awards in all those categories. And I'm a former communications aide to the Wisconsin State Legislature. And that was a wonderful experience for me to really understand how policy comes to pass, how ideas come from constituents into lawmakers, how bills are written, everything you need to know about getting, co-sponsorship and getting your message out to constituents. And as the communications aide, that was really a big piece of my job. So that's a little bit about my background. As you all know, I was first, Crystal Clear Communications first came to the Board of Trustees in September of 2020 to talk about 3 things: marketing the fiber offer, putting forth some concerted effort in ratepayer education, and being more conscious of community education and engagement about the utility and what it does, and how it serves the community of Indianola. And to meet those goals, the trustees approved 2 projects in 2021. We did a website refresh, the goal of which was to simplify site navigation, but most importantly, to create and implement a content strategy where we were able to find the website refresh helped us put the content more to the fore, to make it easy to access, to make it easy to share socially. And then behind that, we got in there with the monthly newsletter that has really exceeded expectations. And I'm excited to talk about that a little bit. But for any trustees or people in the audience who might not have, might not really have been, paying close attention to the inner workings, every month IMU produces a newsletter with 2 to 4 stories in it that focus on ratepayer education items, from things like 10-digit dialing, what it means, why it's happening, how your electricity gets transmitted and how you can save money with lots of tips and tricks. We did one, you guys are probably familiar, the $1 Million Mile was the last newsletter story, lead story, and it actually got picked up by KNIA as a news item, and they ran it almost exactly as we had created it. So that was really exciting too, to learn that we're starting to be seen as a news source unto ourselves. So in addition to that, you probably are aware that I've provided media response to sensitive news items as needed. Now, the first round results this last year, we've had almost 2,000 new visitors to the website. We've seen a 23% increase in the news page views, and that was adjusted from Google Analytics because the fiber TV announcement in 2020 just blew the traffic off the charts. So if we adjust just for that one event, it's 23% increase just in the news page views. Our newsletter results are really fantastic. We have a 33% email subscriber open rate, and actually 33% who open it often or sometimes, and then a 32% total rate. And that's compared to a 25% rate in the general government tier and industry vertical, and in 21% specifically in the telecommunications vertical. So the community of Indianola is really interested in knowing what we have to say. And we put it out on the website, and then we send it out in an email newsletter. And then there's also a print newsletter that goes out with the bill stuffers every month. So no matter, and the email newsletter goes out to over almost 2,400 subscribers now. We've seen just constant gains in our subscription rate. Usually it's been 5 to 10 net subscriber gains per issue of the email newsletter. So that's pretty exciting too. So looking ahead, we really will focus on the same priorities that we had for 2021. But we'll deep dive, and we'll go into a lot more depth. So for fiber marketing, we know that we're going gangbusters, but we also know that there's always a little bit more that we could be doing to uncover those accounts. The thing we have to be careful though, right, Kurt, is being victims of our own success and scheduling your text to death. But I think it's a problem that we'd all love to live with or figure out how to deal with. So this is something that Kurt and Chris and I already discussed for 2022 planning, maybe doing a mail and or a direct marketing direct marketing campaign to non-fiber customers. And that's information obviously that's already in-house. So those are people that we can actively reach out to. We can do custom bill stuffers for non-fiber customers. It's not that none of this has been done, but we can do it in a coordinated, strategic way. We can do emails to online payers. And then those are the direct marketing things that we can do. But I really think there's a lot of opportunity with fiber too, to really cement IMU's position in the community. Fiber is something that people are really excited about with the utility. It's a crystal clear value proposition for the community at large. And I would love to see IMU Fiber become more involved at the local level, maybe with local sponsorships of T-ball teams or anything. I really don't know what your priorities are, but there's lots of community organizations. Maybe we can, help, maybe we can sponsor luncheons at the Rotary. There's all kinds of things that we can talk about. This has started already and it's been really fruitful. And next year, I'd really like to get more embedded with the social media, with IMU's internal social media team, to consistently promote fiber, but not just fiber, everything that we do. And then we are always talking about new ideas. And so this is just sort of a high level overview of what we've been thinking about so far. Now, when we talk about education and engagement, I know this is a lot of words on a slide, and it's also in the print version of the proposal that's attached to the agenda. So, but I'd like to see us work more proactively with area media when there's good news to share. And I took so many notes about the solar opportunity here. I think there's lots of opportunity here to really get the public excited when the time comes. And I really appreciated what Amanda had to say, because clearly this is a nuanced conversation. And I look forward to helping IMU craft that message in a way that is clear, detailed, and understandable for everyone. I want to do more community engagement campaigns, and I wouldn't mind doing a community. I'd love to suggest, if you think it's a good idea, a community needs and sentiment survey. Another idea is to involve the IMU staff directly in creating a community back page for the flyer. And that is something that that the IMU team actually brought to me and was very exciting. And in fact, in our January newsletter, it'll be the first time that the staff has written a story for the newsletter. And it's the top 10 tips for keeping your New Year's resolutions, because that's another thing we do in the newsletter, is we offer lots of tips and tricks for saving energy, for living better in your home, for being a landscaping master and saving water while you're doing it. We're really looking for ways to touch the community of Indianola where they live and work. We really are like part of their lives in so many ways. And so it's really been important, and I think it's really been fruitful that we have expanded the image of IMU, to wrap ourselves a little bit more broadly around that. I also, another thought is potentially a micro grant fund aimed at local civic groups. And there's lots of other kinds of things that we can do as well as the year goes on. But these are just ideas and opportunities. Just wanted to let you know that we've been talking about things and thinking about things. So with that, I just want to thank you. And if anybody has questions or conversation, I'll be happy to turn my video on. And anybody can ask me anything they want.
Diane, this is Lori Smith.
Hi, Lori.
I was curious, kudos to everybody for the newsletter, because I think that has been a big success. And I think that hits along with your comment about the community is just hungry for more information. I think that really is serving a need. I was just curious about how you're coming up with the topics, and if there would be a way, maybe quarter by quarter, we might get a little bit of insight to what's coming in the newsletter.
Absolutely. In fact, we plan the newsletter a minimum of a quarter ahead. And so we already have the editorial plan sketched out through May right now. But we also know that everything that we plan is planned in sort of an evergreen way, with things that we know need to come, that will need to be announced at certain times, slotted in, and then we're flexible and we change things around when we need to. But that document lives in an IMU fiber owned shared drive in Google, and anybody is welcome to take a look at it anytime. And I'm sure we'd be happy to share it in any way that you'd like to see.
I just thought even just a quick conversation here to say the next quarter topics are ABC. An in-depth kind of conversation, but I think you're hitting the community with some really good information. And I think one of the things we've asked Chris for is kind of what goes on during the year, so we kind of have an idea of what happens when. So I'm sure you guys have probably talked about that to line some of your topics up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it helps us have some insight, and potentially we'd have some maybe comments about a topic that might be valuable that we've missed.
I would be happy to come to any council, any trustees meeting, even the next one, to talk to you about it. I'm also happy to send the information out. Unfortunately, right now I'm kind of plugged in a certain way, and I'm not sure that I can pull Drive Up without dropping my camera.
That's fine. It doesn't have to be tonight. I do just think this is kind of a next year goal for us, is maybe to have some better conversation about what's coming.
And to add to that,
absolutely,
that's something that you could just report to us as part of your other business type items, general utility. I agree, like I really liked the article on the $1 million mile related to water, but I was a little bit surprised.
I was too.
So
Okay.
it would have been nice to have known that that was coming out.
And potentially we could educate ourselves so when we get questions from the
Exactly.
community, we don't have to stand stunned and say, oh, well, you know, I was surprised by that too, and I will follow up on that. It just gives
That's
us
a
little
really-
bit of advantage.
Lori, I really appreciate that. And as I said, I would also be happy. I really, this is my first trustees meeting and I felt like I really gained a lot of insight just being present. I don't think that my presence is necessary at all of them, but I would be happy to attend certain meetings, even just as a fly on the wall and listen in, and also to present or ask questions as needed, especially as I move more into a media response and communications, strategist within the utility role. So sure.
That might be a good thing, just to kind of keep an eye on the agenda to see when might be best for you to plug in or not too.
Absolutely. I'm Indianola is high on my radar at all times, so that would not be a problem.
So Kurt, question for you.
Mhm.
How much more can your people do?
I mean, we're full every month, so.
And I thought you were, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking the question. So there's a
Yeah.
part of me that says, and while I appreciate your enthusiasm for expanding fiber, and I admit it's a good problem to have, but we've been drinking through a fire hose a lot.
I mean, we have been at the point where we need to bring in some contractors to help out, which we can do. We've done that before, but obviously that comes.
But
at
that
a
also
price
ups our costs to the
too. A
point.
lot. Yep.
And if we do 65 installs over a course of 9 months, because I figure we got frost in the ground, we got blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's 585 installs a year. So we're pushing 600 installs. So I too, I think the newsletter is great. Although I thought and maybe it was just because it caught me by surprise, but I thought the water article had a bit of a negative tone to it, and maybe that's okay. I like the idea of doing some surveys though, and finding out. I guess I don't know so much what our customers need, because I don't want to say we provide what we provide, but I don't know how we would grow or do anything else off of that. I mean, I don't want to water and electric. I mean, I don't know other services that might come off of the different things that we offer. But I do think it would be beneficial to us to, I guess, get some information as to, how do people rate the quality of our power, of our fiber, our reliability, our customer service, and those type of things. I think it's been a while since we've done a survey.
Well, I honestly, I'm intrigued by that. Like, again, what I threw out was a laundry list, and I brought my priorities based on priorities I was given. I understand that we're very, very full up with fiber, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a piece of what we lead with when we talk about the utility, because there's a lot of goodwill towards fiber. So, it's not a bad thing to focus on from a community standpoint, whether or not we're doing it specifically to drive business. But I really, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I do think though, John, and it hits on what Mike hit in our strategy session, that we need to be a little bit more of a broadcaster of the good things that we're doing.
Yeah. I do agree. We need to do more community involvement, and whether that's sponsored a T-ball team, and I'm not saying that that's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think we need to do things to be more visible in our community, particularly. Well, I would say specifically in fiber, because that's a venue that we compete with others in.
We also have more opportunities in terms of fiber because it is competitive, and it's a little bit different how we can interact with it. The community needs survey idea, I was kind of sparked by that, because we have internally, we have a feeling that there's just that there's a lot of negativity towards the utility, and there at times, and there's some, and when people are critical, they're vocal. But how do most people feel? How do rank and file people feel? I don't know that we know that really. And I don't know what it would take to get a lot of people to respond to us honestly, but I think it would be worth looking into.
Well, I do too. And I'm sure there's a handful of people who are maybe concerned. But I think the vast majority, I think are happy with service. But again, assuming we do that, we get some positive, I mean, that's something else that we can hang our hat on and say, hey,
Yep.
75-90% of our customers, think we're awesome. Chris, have you guys had any conversations as far as local TV
Like the local TV channels.
channels?
I mean, I think that's,
If you haven't, I would encourage you to have that conversation.
We had it. We actually did talk about it at length when we very first started talking in September of 2020. But the cost and the time, talent, and treasure required to produce unique video at the time was definitely not in scope with what we could do last year. If that's something that we want to look at for this year, and I think it would be amazing, then we could have more conversation about it and see what that would require.
The city has gone through the.
Sorry, Johnny, and I was asking if we'd already had something like that in years past and let that go.
But even on a bigger scale, one of the things we talked about way when we were in the planning and discussions of fiber was, having our own community channel. But that would also give opportunity for local businesses and stuff to even advertise on there, put Indianola sporting events, Simpson sporting events, maybe possibly those type of things. Because a parent who sends their kid to college here that maybe can't make a game, is going to be able to maybe watch it on TV, and advertisers would maybe pay to pitch their products to those folks. I see that as potentially a revenue source also that we could maybe utilize.
I'd really be
maybe that doesn't pencil out.
Well, I'd be interested in talking to some other communities that are doing that. And seeing, because I know a number of communities in Iowa do that, and but I really don't know if they do it more for service or if it at least nets to zero. Does anybody else have a sense of that?
No, I was hoping maybe with your expertise in media and so forth, that maybe you had a better taste than we did. I don't know.
Well, it's not, there's not a one size fits all answer is all. It really depends on, it depends on your relationship with that channel and the infrastructure, how much you're maintaining, whether what the obligations are. So the cost is really unknowable. So that's why it's hard to tell. There's all different kinds of ways to do it, I'm sure. And I don't understand the relationship I don't know how the city's channel works, so I'd have to just have a few more conversations to really know.
The Cedar Falls have their own channel through.
Yeah,
Cedar Falls
they do.
Utilities.
And right now, Jackie, am I correct that the city's channel is not working? Or
No,
is
it's broadcast from MediaCom.
it is through MediaCom?
Yep.
It was probably more for Chris and Kurt. If I recall, in the business plan for fiber was a position for marketing. And we haven't ever filled that, but it's come up several times within the board, probably prior to Ori and Deb. And I wouldn't say it's resistance, but there hasn't felt like there was a need for that, given what you talked about, Kurt, that you're really already at capacity. It seems like this sort of, without hiring an additional full-time person, this gets at that and it takes us a step in that direction with John Ann. Am I thinking about that?
Yeah,
Right.
that's, a lot of what we're doing now. Like the newsletter is, has been a great success, and she'll continue the work and the assistance on that. And this will get us, some more hours to further in the direction, and, we're not necessarily putting a rigorous structure on what has to be. We're getting some more hours that, if it's not fiber marketing, it's the community engagement stuff, and all of that, or the need of that in that business plan. And this is a flexible way to accomplish that.
And everything is laid out there in the proposal. It's quantified. Hours can be flexible, can be rolled over, within reason. And so we really worked hard to structure it in a way that, gave IMU a lot of flexibility about how they used my time, but then also, of course, set me at a base level where I can definitely promise that time every month in my consultancy too. So I'm really happy with how we worked it out. I hope that it's something that looks good to you guys too.
Any other discussion, or are we ready to move forward? And if so, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to.
I want to make sure I understand this right. So we're committing to $17.50 each month. And then there's some flexibility in how we do what we do, or how much we utilize every month, or
No.
we committing to $2,500.
You're committing to $2,500 each month. And yes, you're committing to $2,500 each month. A portion of that though is you're paying me about $2,100 a month now. So is what it's netting out to be with the extra work that I'm doing. So this just builds in time, allows me to expand what I'm doing a little bit more. And that other $400 differential is really the flex in the hours that you're paying for already. So it's just that it guarantees that I set the time aside, and then your unused time, to an extent, you can roll forward to the end of the contract. So does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is not a roll call, is it just voice vote? Yeah, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The contract with Joanne and Crystal is John Ann and Crystal First Communications is approved.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to 2022.
Thank you for coming
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
thank you. Thank you. I think I'm gonna cut out for the end here. So it's 8 o'clock here and I'm getting hungry. So thank you guys so much for having me to the meeting. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you.
I thought you said it was in Norwalk.
She currently lives in Michigan. She's from Norwalk.
Oh.
Okay, the next item is related to approval of the utility accounts to be written off and use the customary collection methods, including submission to the state offset program. And I think is Alicia going to do a little bit of additional information, or how do you want to go about this, Chris?
Yeah, in your packets, the list of the write-offs. I think we've also included some supplementary information.
Yeah.
Alicia will kind of go over that and answer any questions you
I
have.
gave everybody one of these, right? Okay. So it wasn't just me that did this spreadsheet, by the way, it was my gals in the office that helped me out. So I just want to give them credit where credit's due. But what we did is we basically went down through since 2016 and showed what we had wrote off for electric, water, fees, and then fiber. As you can see, the average percent is about 0.57. And going from 2016 down to where we are today, we have lowered that percentage of what we have wrote off. And that includes with fiber starting in 2020. We only have one quarter in 2020, and that's because we were behind on writing off, on doing write-offs.
Well, we suspended write-ups, didn't we?
Yeah, for
Yeah, so we were
the,
just catching up
Yeah.
then for that, because of that.
Because of COVID.
But it just shows that the percentages that we are getting lower and what we are writing off, and that's even with fiber involved in the last couple of years. I think is a great thing.
yeah, that's
People
kind
are
of
paying
a,
the bills, and we're also, we are getting money back from the state too. It doesn't come as often as we would like, but we are getting some. So. I don't have
When you say some, like, is it 2%?
I don't really know the percentage. I can tell you, I believe like the last one that came in was maybe $2,000, you know, around there. It's not always that much, but I think it just depends on when people are doing their taxes, and then if people get earnings from the lottery, we also get that too. So I'm not sure of the percentage on that part.
it is high enough. We reviewed this with the auditors as far as, you know, if there's a portion of this wrote off amount that needs to be, you know, considered bad debt. And yeah,
What did you call
An allowance for bad debt.
yeah, our collection or future collection of the write-offs is high enough that they figure it likely enough that we haven't had to incur any allowance for this bad debt. So obviously we've got 10 years to collect, and we don't always collect it in the first year, but you know, with 10 years to collect it, those collection rates are high enough that the auditors don't think that we need to write any of this off or write it down for an allowance.
So Alicia, the fees column
Mhm.
has data through 19.
Yep, so the fees now are included within the electric, water, and fiber.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of like miscellaneous fees anymore that are just hanging out there. A lot of them are tied to a service. So that's why you don't see that.
Okay, and then, so for the billing that's done for the city sewer, and I know there's a few other things,
Mhm.
I assume you have the same type of data for,
I have this type that you guys get, they get one of these each type as well.
okay,
This is just strictly our services.
okay. I don't think it would hurt. I think it'd be helpful to the city to get this type of historical analysis on their site too.
We can do that.
I agree, this is really helpful to see
Yeah, this is great data.
the trend.
This is exactly what I would be looking for.
Yeah, I did think it just kind of, I think you mentioned it, that it's an interesting observation. After we added fiber, our collection difficulties decreased. Take that for what it's worth.
For a bigger head than he's already got.
What percentage? According to the guy that's got it collected.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we need to approve this, don't we?
So move.
Motion, did you second?
I can second, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The utility accounts to be written off has been approved. Chris, then I think we're combined electric, water, and communications utility information.
You know, other than the mean meeting and the discussions that have come out of that, you know, we're prepping or doing some of that financial analysis and work for our budget process at being expect that to have rates set for the utilities and the changes on our second meeting in January. So work is functioning and processing through that that way. And, you know, there is a lot of discussion related to natural gas prices and what they'll mean and what we'll need to do with rates. We should have an answer late January.
So you mentioned the December 27th meeting. Is that, as a group, should we decide now whether we need to have that? I think typically we have canceled that meeting, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be here either. In fact, I know I'm not.
We're traveling that day, so we'll be able to go.
Typically, we cancel that and that there's nothing pressing that we need to approve. So, or nothing that can't be.
Yeah,
okay with
that
that?
works, I'm okay with So then, whatever that first meeting in January will be when we talk to the software.
Same bill. Depending on when the contracts come out, but that may be the second meeting, but,
January 10th is the first January.
yeah, I don't know when we'll see those, and I'll want to give our attorneys enough time to review those and, you know, for any of those concerns. So I would guess the second meeting, January for Sand Hill folks, but, you know, if they get something to us with quick turnaround, then we're able to,
Seems unlikely with the holidays.
Yeah, I don't see that. I thought the timeline to me seemed quick, but I don't know if even for us to even look and vet at some other things. I think it'd be wise for us to take a look at some of that stuff. And I trust you guys from a number standpoint for sure. You guys are way better at that than I am, I know, but not understanding that business is intimidating, I guess, for me. That's what makes you make a good decision.
Yep.
So the next meeting's gonna be January 10th.
Correct.
Yeah. And Amanda mentioned Russ, so it's when I know Russ. I can call Russ.
Do you know this red line?
I do not. But that doesn't mean he doesn't.
I've heard.
That's a group, it's not a person's name.
But Russ is an easy guy to talk to. And he would, I think,
Put it in our terms.
something even I could understand.
Chris, update on strategic plan, what's our progress on?
we met on Friday. I think it was Friday. Yeah, on Friday we met as a group to kind of review their draft, made some suggestions, some polish. Got a little more work to do on that this week, and I'll be sending out the rough draft or the framework. We have filled it all out, but we'll sometime this week you guys should be seeing that framework as a result of the strategic plan.
So does the framework include action items and timing?
Yep.
And then audit, can you give us an update on the status of the audit?
The last update I have on that one is they are expecting to have that complete sometime right before Christmas for a presentation in the January meeting. And that was about a week ago. You have any update on that? They have everything. It's going through all their various processes. So we're done on our side, and there's no outstanding items. Within, I guess, 10 days now, 10 or 12 days, they were anticipating having it done right before Christmas. And then we'll come present it at the next trustee meeting.
And they've shared with you, I communicated on this to share this with the other board members. They communicated that there's going to be a couple findings, but far, far fewer than what we had a year ago.
Yeah, they gave us the initial draft, and what is in it right now is a cash to accrual adjustment finding, as well as an inventory related finding in the fiber side. I think there's some discussion about the various wording and our responses and what we're going to do.
There's different levels that they can classify those findings. So I think there's still discussions going on about what level they'll be at.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, I think in comparison to last year, we made a lot of progress, and I think there is again, just like last year, we have where we had most of those problems solved before the auditors left. Got all the inventory stuff wrapped up, and we're enhancing some of those processes, and don't anticipate that to be an issue from here on out. There's a little more discussion about what that cash to accrual means. We are reporting a lot of things as cash and using it on the expenditure basis, so we can give the city information on the cash basis. On the cash basis. What that means is that periodically our financial statements wouldn't show up like traditional financial statements. When we are buying a truck, if we ever do end up getting a truck, they show up as an expenditure right now, and so we can report those expenditures for the city, and they can be incorporated in the city-related expenditures. Where on a true accrual basis, with true GAAP financial statements, that wouldn't be an expenditure, that would be an asset. It would be reported, as a transaction between cash and that asset. And so bridging that gap is more work, because we're basically doing it functionally both ways. And I think there's probably some ways we can enhance this cash to accrual, but while we're reporting, incongruous with the city, there's always going to be, some level of imperfection.
That's really the underpinning of it, is how we report back to the city.
What's that?
That's really the underpinning of why there's a discrepancy, is because of how the city.
Yeah, we're not
does their
recording.
accounting.
Yeah, we're not recording stuff on a true cash basis because, like, the city AFR is a cash basis, and they don't have asset purchases or asset additions. They have expenditures.
So if we made a change to correct that, we'd still have, as what you're saying, we'd still have to produce that in order to get it back to the city.
We'd have to kind of approach it a different way, which is, add those expenditures back and finding the best way. We are doing it functionally both ways, and that, it's certainly not ideal. Is there a way we can improve that? I mean, that's kind of what we're discussing, and there'll be a better way to handle this. On how we're going to report it to the trustees on a true asset basis and still retain information. That's items to be still worked out.
And I was also going to mention, so last year, what I would consider to be one of the more significant findings was really the segregation of duties, just having controls in place of who does what and not having too much access to different things. I was pleased to see, I think that initially he did have that in there as a third finding, but I think after Chris, I don't know if Chris and Chris both had discussions with him, he ended up agreeing that segregation of duties was not an issue at IMU. So I was really glad to see that got pulled out. So.
And is that documented somewhere? So if somebody were to come and challenge it, we could say these responsibilities are handled by this role and these are handled by this role.
Yeah, Chris, I would hope so. I think that's part of that's probably documented in the work that Robert does.
Yeah.
But do we have it documented internally would be a question too.
Depending on we certainly had some processes, cash handling processes that are better documented than others, but
seems like that's one that could give us people could have some scrutiny against that.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be wise to get that document.
yeah, absolutely. We do have limited staff, and that does lend itself, or increases the risk of having those segregation due to problems. But I think Robert agreed that for the staff that we have, and for the benefit that hiring more people and doing more review, that our structure is as good as it can get with our current related staff. That's where he took out that.
But the question that's being asked is documentation.
Yeah.
And so I'm understanding you to say that is documented today.
Not, we don't have a
To the
full
extent that it
documentation.
should be.
Correct.
And so we can and will do that. I guess that's what we're asking.
Yeah, it's that as we're making all these changes, we're recording those and documenting those. It's by no means, a complete accounting policy or accounting manual, but
No, but this specific instance is we're talking about right now. I just want to make sure that, because we had this discussion last year. We made some changes, and I understood when he came and presented to us and talked to us that he was satisfied with the changes that we made. So there's a part of me that wonders if we truly made the changes that he made, why he would.
I think he just didn't have all the information yet. I just had to explain a few additional things for him to be comfortable with it. But I agree with you on documentation. And I would think that Robert would have that documented already. So even if it's just getting that
Adopting
from
that to your
him.
policy.
Yeah.
incorporating that, we can certainly certainly follow up and ask about that.
Well, it was my understanding too, that they could only do so much last year and that they would be, going forward and digging a little deeper this year. Isn't that right, Chris?
I mean, I think on certain items, they review items of risk or, the highest risk and pay those the most attention. Last year surrounding the conversion, I think their view, the highest risk items were related to that conversion. And so they focused a lot on those, where this year that conversion risk wasn't there. And so they moved to the next highest risk thing and spent the time there. Overall, they're still looking at all the important items, and but their area of focus or their area of risk typically does change year to year. And
Right.
I guess I don't know for sure that last year the highest related risk was conversion. I'm just assuming it was, based upon my expectations. And, like I said, I don't know the areas that they focused the most dramatically on in their risk analysis this year, but they would be different this year.
Which is the nature of an audit. I mean, they're looking and they will just keep drilling down.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think anything else, other business from anybody?
Give us an update on the response to your request of.
I have received nothing. Yep, I don't know.
Speaking, Chris, I know, so tell us about, I know when we talked on Friday, you had indicated there was what's the proper word, orientation for the incoming council folks. I know maybe not everyone's aware of that. Maybe you share a little bit about that.
We, all the department heads sat down with the 3 new council members as well as the new mayor. Had a great orientation, kind of went through and looked at areas of concern for IMU and focused on what we do and where we do it, and had a great conversation. There was a lot of good feedback from those folks, and I know not all of the, or at least in the past couple of years, we haven't had some of the remaining council folks. I'd encourage them to join. I think we had a great conversation, and I think we're setting a good path forward and making sure that everyone has a kind of understanding of what we do and why we're doing it. It was a great conversation, a lot of mutual benefit, and help get them up to speed. And I think they'll be able to make better decisions as a council because they kind of know where we're coming from and why we're doing what to do. Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
We turn our air on.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. A little warm in here. Is there a motion to adjourn?
It's okay. So I hope you use electric heat.
Time to go home.
I think, is that a motion to close the meeting, Leslie?
I
Yes.
said.
Yes.
And a second, all in favor, say aye.
Hi. Merry Christmas, everyone.
See you, Leslie.
You too, Leslie.